Okay, so it's about 10:31. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you folks for sharing with me where your school, where your students currently attend. It's always nice to hear where our folks are coming from. I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Mrs. Vang. I'm one of the assistant principals at El Diamante High School. I am the assistant principal in student services. So I have Mrs. Polk here with us. She is our intervention learning director. Mrs. Garcia, which is the current senior learning director, will be joining us shortly. After she graduates her senior class, Mrs. Garcia will be taking in the incoming ninth graders. So that is your current 8th grade students. So Mrs. Garcia will be joining us shortly as well. Mrs. Loverin, who has been is here as well. She is here to support me with all the technical aspects of this webinar. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and go through a PowerPoint presentation. This is all information that majority of our kids have already received. We do have a Ridgeview presentation tomorrow morning to meet with the remainder, the other half of students that are coming to us next school year. So Ridgeview students, we still meet with them tomorrow morning. So there's about half of them that we have not met with yet. So I do see that there's some Ridgeview families here with us right now. But again, thank you guys for joining us. If you can please just put the names of the school that your student currently attends and where they're coming from in the chat box. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat box. Mrs. Polk is going to help me with answering any of those questions in the chat box as well. Again, I'm Mrs. Vang, one of the assistant principals at LD, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started, and I'm going to remove myself in the camera so all you see is the PowerPoint. Again, welcome families. We're excited to welcome you to the Minor family. Before we get started, there's a few items that I do want to mention and share with families to help during this whole COVID-19 distance registration process. We are definitely trying to learning all the different ways in which we can register following the social distancing protocols. But I do want to emphasize that a lot in everything that we do have is on the El Diamante website. So if you take a look here, I just want to real briefly go over it with you. If you go to student services, you want to go to incoming ninth grader information. Okay? This website will have everything that you need regarding incoming ninth graders. It goes over the welcome presentation. It has a video that all of our students were received in the 8th grade class. Ridgeview kids will see it again tomorrow. This goes over college career readiness, the academies, the program planning guide, and then this right here is going to be resent out to all of our 8th graders tomorrow at about noontime, giving them information on how to complete their scheduling form. So there's videos and resources here for our 8th graders to reference. And then it also goes over, the website will also have information on any schools that are, any students that are coming to us from outside our traditional feeder schools. So our traditional feeder schools are La Jolla and Ridgeview, but we do get students from outside that feeder line. So there's information here for all of our students. If there is anything that is not here and you have a question for, you can always feel free to email me or call me here at the office as well. And then Mrs. Garcia's Remind app, she again is going to be next year's 9th grade learning director. You can text at 2025 minors to 81010, and there you'll receive information throughout the school year and as things come up regarding incoming freshman details. The website will have information on news, the bulletin where you can subscribe and get updated information daily. Our bulletin goes out every day. Athletic information, and then lastly, I do want to emphasize the online program planning guide. This right here is a resource that will help you when you're meeting with your student or when you review with your student course selections for next year. This goes over policies on choosing a class. If you have specific questions about academies and CTE, everything is listed here for you pertaining to classes. So these are the course sequence of the pathways, and I'll go over that briefly. I do want to also emphasize that we have an AVID application. So if your student currently is in the 8th grade and is an AVID student, it does not mean that they'll automatically be placed in AVID. So you need to make sure that if your student is interested in AVID, they just click here. The AVID application is here, and I believe it's March 22 for the AVID application deadline. You want to put your information here, your student's information if they're interested in the AVID application. Okay. Shortly after today, our webinar here, there is a Q&A for parents if they're interested in attending the Q&A session for AVID. It is right after this meeting. It's at 11:30, but there's also one in the evening time at 6:30 after our evening Q&A session. So I just wanted to make you guys aware and familiar with the resources that are on the LD website. I want to introduce our admin team. There's a few of us. Our principal is Mr. Hahn. Mrs. Nelson is our assistant principal of curriculum and instruction. I am the assistant principal of student services. Mrs. Atherton is our assistant principal of supervision, and she oversees grades 10 and 12. Mrs. Calvero is our AP of supervision as well, and she oversees grades 9 and 11. Mr. Kaiser is our athletic director. Mrs. Garcia is kind of transitioning between two classes right now. So she is the learning director for the class of 2021. And then after she graduates this class, the current seniors, she will be taking on your children, the current 8th graders, the class of 2025. One thing that is different from our campus is that our learning directors loop with our students. So Mrs. Garcia will be with your students for all 4 years. She'll start with them in 9th grade, and then she will transition each year with them as they go up in grades. Okay, Mr. Elms is our current junior learning director. Mrs. Davis is our sophomore learning director. And then Mr. Stahl is our learning director for the current freshman class. Mrs. Polk, which is on the call with us today, is our intervention learning director, and she works primarily with the 8th to 9th grade transition. So your students will get to know her in the 9th grade as well. And folks that are just joining us, if you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat box. I've got a few folks here that are going to help answer questions through the chat box. Sorry. Our graduation requirements. One thing I do want to note is all students have to have 220 credits to graduate. And I think that there's a difference between middle school and high school, because high school we go based off credits, and middle school we're still looking at a point system. So they're still doing 1, 2, 3, 4 as their grades, at least at La Jolla and at Ridgeview. Okay. In high school, it's all letter grades, so A, B, C, D, and F. Okay. And F does not mean that a student passed. We want students to get A, B's, and C's. A D is passing, but it does not mean that you're proficient. Okay. One thing I do want to note about high school graduation, which is new to your students, the current 8th graders, the class of 2025, is the highlighted item here. 3 years of math is required to graduate in Visalia Unified. So with that being said, 3 years is also the requirement, the minimum requirement if you want to go off to a 4-year university. So all students have to have 4 years of English, that's 40 credits total, 3 years of history or social science, 3 years of math, 2 years of a science, half a semester of health, 2 years of PE is required for graduation, a year of either a visual performing art or foreign language is required for graduation, and then 65 credits total of elective points. This right here is what I was mentioning earlier regarding A through G requirements. The A through G requirements are the courses that you need to have in your schedule with a C or higher to meet minimum eligibility for a CSU or a UC. If your students are looking at a private school, then they're going to want to look at meeting these minimum requirements and even more. Just note that Cal Poly is a little different. I want to say that they're part of the CSU system, but they're kind of like a private institution in their expectations. So I just know that in advance that if you're looking at wanting to attend Cal Poly or even a private institution, you're looking at meeting these requirements and even more. These again are the minimum requirements. College and career prepared, this is something we want all our students to have when they graduate their senior year. Okay? We want students to be prepared for college and career. We want them to have options after they graduate. And these are some of the different ways. If you look at this visual here, it allows you to see the different ways in which a student can graduate college career prepared. And this is new to the state of California. I'd say it's about 3 years old at this point. There's different ways in which a student can meet college and career prepared. And some of those ways is through completion of a CTE pathway, Smarter Balance Assessment. Those are the SBAC tests that they take in the junior year. Students can achieve it by obtaining 3s or higher on AP exams, by taking college credit, so taking classes at COS, which is our neighboring community college, meeting A through G requirements, the state seal of biliteracy, and then we do not have the leadership military science, but this is the other way in which they can obtain it, but we don't have it here on our site. Okay, so this information will all be on the website for you to reference and review also with your students when you're selecting classes for next year. As I shared earlier, CTE stands for Career Technical Education. These are all the CTE pathways that LD Diamante has. Okay? So we have Ag Mech, Ag Horticulture, Ag Tech, Ag Business, Auto, and Food Service and Production. Our academies is Media Arts and Strong. So those are our 2 academies. We have a lot more academies in the district, but these are the only 2 that LD Diamante currently has. So this just goes over, gives you a visual of the course sequence in which students should take if they want to be a CTE completer. So if, for example, a student is interested in the Ag Mech pathway, they would start off with the intro course of Ag Mech 1, which is typically their freshman year that they would take this. Sophomore year, you can still participate, but I always tell students that freshman year, you have more room in your schedule. You'll see that sophomore year, students' schedules are a little bit more impacted. But you'll start off with Ag Mech 1, and then you can choose Ag Biology or Ag Mechanics 2, your sophomore year, or both. And then Ag 3 as the capstone course, and then Ag 4, your senior year. Okay? So that is how you become a CTE completer, and these are all the different courses in the sequence that's required. A reminder that the academies, the applications are closing on Monday. So as I had mentioned earlier, this information will be on the website, but I do want to emphasize that the link is it's a clickable link here. It'll take you directly to this website, and it says right here, apply now. So if you are interested in an academy, whether it's at LD or at a different campus, please make sure you fill out the application so that the other schools, or even if you're wanting to join the academy here at our school, that we know how many of you are interested in these academies. Okay? I will also emphasize that even if you apply to an academy outside of LD, you still need to register with your home school until you receive an acceptance letter. Okay? So if you have applied, for example, if you apply to an academy at Mount Whitney, but your student is slated to attend LD, still register for LD Diamante courses until you receive an acceptance letter from your academy school. There's more details and information about our academies all on this website. Our specific videos are listed here. If you want to watch the videos, they're a clickable link on our website. As you're selecting courses for 9th grade, I want parents and students to be familiar that you're not only just selecting classes for A through G requirement or for VUSD graduation diploma requirements, but if your student is a student athlete and hopes to play at the college level, we need to also consider NCAA or NAIA. Okay? And you'll know more about that, I'd say, sophomore year, but now is a great time to explore and be familiar with those options. And your learning director will sit down with your student if they are indeed serious about playing a sport at the college level, and we will map out the courses that are required for students to meet NCAA or NAIA at the college level. Student government and leadership. Some of the ways in which our students get involved is through ASB, student government or leadership. I do want to emphasize that your incoming ninth graders, the freshmen, do have opportunities in the fall to enroll in the ASB class and to run for student government. So these students work a whole lot on our campus with making sure school culture is awesome. So if your students are interested in anything like this, I would highly suggest that they run for ASB or be part of leadership on our campus. And they don't have to be in ASB. They can be part of a club, and we have various different clubs on our campus. If there is a club that your child wants to participate in that does not exist, all we ask is for students to identify what that club is and to find an adult teacher on campus that is willing to be the person that oversees the club. Our Avid elective, I think I had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but shortly after today's meeting, there's a 1:30 session for parents that are interested in having their students participate in Avid, but there's also a 6:31. The Zoom link is in the PowerPoint that's going to be provided on the website here, but there is details again on the program planning guide regarding the Avid application. The registration process. We have done registration presentations at La Jolla the last couple days. We had our first Ridgeview presentation this morning, and we meet again with Ridgeview tomorrow. A lot of our presentations are just all done, well, all of our presentations are all done through Zoom. For those of you outside of the traditional feeder line of Ridgeview and La Jolla, private school information, so Valley Life, Sycamore Valley, information is on the website regarding how to register and how to select your classes. Everything with regards to course selection this year is going to be done through a Google form. Students at La Jolla and Ridgeview will receive an email tomorrow afternoon stating that the Google form is active and you can select your courses. Over the winter break, you received a winter packet that detailed all the courses for ninth grade, along with a sheet of paper that said freshman registration. That freshman registration form is really for you to keep and for you to reference. What we want to have you do is complete your course selection using the Google form, because we basically transferred the paper to an electronic form. If you do not select your classes by March 17th, what we do is we go in and we look and see what classes the student currently is taking, and we will place you in classes accordingly. Okay? But all students will get an email tomorrow stating that the Google form is active and they can go in and select their courses, and they will have a month to complete that Google form. There was a question about how you receive a Zoom link to the presentation. Thank you. Summer school registration is going to take, you would register for at the same time you do your course selections for ninth grade. So that'll be tomorrow at noon. But students can start checking their email tomorrow at noon to select summer school as an option. So summer school is 3 weeks in length. It runs from June 8th through June 24th for those first 3 weeks. And then the last 3 weeks is June 28th through July 15th. In the past, class started at 7:10 in the morning and it ran till 12:30 p.m. With the changes to kind of how class and school is going, I'm not sure if 7:10 will continue to be the time. There are talks of discussion of possibly starting at 8, but I don't have final details on that just yet, so I would recommend that you check back on regarding summer school times. I do know that it still runs June 8th through July 15th, and if your child is planning to attend summer school for health, it will actually be done via Zoom in the summer. So health is going to be the same way it kind of is right now for school. It'll be done via Zoom. Students will not be able to pick which 3 weeks they get, so students can't go in and say, I want June 8th through June 24th. It's all dependent on the number of requests we get for summer school. We try our very best to make sure everybody that requests it gets it, but there's no way we can go in and say all these kids want June 8th and then all these kids want June 28th. So just know that the 6 weeks is June 8th through July 15th, but summer school is only 3 weeks for health. One thing I do want to note to families is if you are in the Strong Academy, do not take summer school health, because Strong Academy students have to take Strong 1 in the 9th grade, and that is a year-long health class. So that will meet the health requirement for our Strong Academy students. And we'll note that as well. If you are in the Strong Academy and you identified health as wanting to take it in the summer, we will let you know and say, you know what, that's probably not the best thing to do because you're going to take it again in 9th grade. Oh yes, I did put this in bold. There is an informational video. I think I am going to walk you guys through this real quick with regards to the Google form. So, information pieces. Here you go. This right here is what your students will receive tomorrow. I've closed it, but I want to provide you with an example of how it will look like. So this is basically the paper format, but turned into an electronic version. This will be active tomorrow. Your students will receive an email at about noontime saying the Google form is available for you to start going in and selecting classes. And as I mentioned earlier, you have until March 17th. Okay. So this is just an example. So I tell the students to put in their email, first name, last name, an ID if you have one. If you don't have one, just put in zeros. What school do you currently attend? I'm going to just pick La Jolla. The best number to reach you. The students will fill that in, the best email contact. And when I say you, I'm talking about the student. And then if you have an IEP or 504, you'll check here. If you don't know what that is, just skip that answer, that question. Media Arts and Strong Academy course sequence. There's a visual here for you if you're interested. Again, the Academy applications are due on the 22nd, but we also like to ask our students if they're interested. So if you are, you'll select one of these. I'm just going to select no. This is just an example I'm walking through. These are the core classes, and I provided 2 examples of 9th grade schedule for students. It does say summer school option available is health and driver's ed, but right now we know that there is no driver's ed in summer school. Okay, it will only be health. These are the primary core classes that all freshmen have to have. So as I mentioned, they have to have an English, math, freshman requirement of health and success 101, and then PE. As a parent and as a student, I want you guys to discuss together what is the best placement for English. Take English 1 here. Media Arts and Strong, this is only if you're in the academies that you'll select those 2 boxes. These are examples of the math sequence. It is a 3-year math requirement for the current 8th graders that are coming in. Most of our students come in at Math 1. Okay, so I'm just selecting this as an example. Freshman Studies class, Health and Success 101. Only Strong 1 kids get to participate in this class because it's a year-long health class. For PE, please identify if you want core PE or integrated PE. Integrated PE is for the Academy of Strong students, AOS. I'm choosing integrated core PE 1. That has more weight training component to it. Okay. And I'm going to select here that I want to play a sport. Okay. I don't know what sport I want to play yet, but I'm going to select that so that our athletic director has an idea of which students want to play a sport and he can communicate with you regarding tryouts and such. Next. This is information again about our CTE pathways. Just more visuals. and then select here if you are interested in a pathway. If you are interested in a pathway and you select here, it'll take the place of one of your electives. I'm just going to select next because it's not a required question to answer. Here is where you'll select your freshman courses for your students, and we do our very best to satisfy the top 2 elective choices. So I'm going to put here my top choices: AVID. I know that I need a foreign language to graduate or an art class, so my second choice is going to be Spanish, and you can scroll across here to locate the other elective choices. Okay, so I've got choice 1 and 2 down. We need 4 selections, and it won't let you proceed unless you identify 4. I select third choice as drama, and then AgMech 1 as my 4th choice. Please select if you're interested in summer school. And then right here it says parent and guardian have to approve these selections. And then it does ask for parent contact information. And then the best parent email. This is just an example, so I'm putting in numbers. And then you can list here if you have any further questions or concerns, and we'll receive that. I don't have any, so I'm just going to put NA. And then you can choose to send a copy to yourself, and then you submit. And that's it. Hit the open. So that, well, I do want to emphasize that once you submit it, you only get one chance. So if there is an error, or your child decides, I don't want that class anymore, I changed my mind, what will have to happen in order to make the change is you'll have to call the office or email me, Mrs. Garcia, or myself. I would say contact me to let me know that you want to make a change, and then I'd have to go in physically to make a change on my end. Okay? That's why it's so important that students and parents review the course selections together. There is a how-to video for students and parents if you would like to see how to complete the Google form, but it's basically what I just walked over. Okay? It does close on March 17th. Just some information about resources. Excel is our after-school program. It runs on Mondays in the morning from 7 to 9 a.m. because we normally would have late start on Mondays in our traditional bell schedule. Tuesday through Fridays, it runs 7 to 8 a.m. And then after school, Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 5:30. We do have student tutors in there that help assist with various different subjects. The only thing that we do ask is that if you are interested in having your student participate, students have to have an application on file signed by a parent. Thank you so much. This information will be posted on the El Diamante website for those families that were not able to participate. We do have another 5:30 session in the evening for parents if they'd like to attend that one. Otherwise, I want to say thank you so much for joining us.